there's tons of information out there if you Google it, on how your emotional well-being affects your pelvic health. Your jaw is connected to your pelvic floor. So I find a lot of people with like jaw tension, which again is stress. You'll find a lot of pelvic floor like hypertonicity. And so you have to also think like when someone's pregnant, they're carrying a baby inside or babies inside of their pelvis, on their pelvic floor, in their abdominal wall, with all those changes happening to grow and accommodate for that uterus that is doubling in size. More than doubling in size, actually.
I was going to say, it's getting very big.
Like, your body has to grow to change to accommodate that. And it's all natural. It's all about how it's supposed to go. But then it's what we're finding, what the research is showing, is like that postpartum, right? Like what we're doing in those first 8 weeks to rehab the body, to, reconnect to the abdominal wall. Gone are the days where it's like, oh, you're, 3-finger separation of your ab muscles. That's called diastasis recti. Yeah, it's sometimes okay to know where you're at, finger width wise, because it gives you a starting point. But what's actually important is that you know how to turn on your abdominal wall. You know how to connect that to your pelvic health, like to your pelvic floor. And that's really important. And the thing with a C-section is that it will inhibit that connection, because your tissues are supposed to be moving, right? Like, so your tissues usually kind of glide and slide against each other. And when you have scar tissue in there, and scar tissue, when it lays down, is not kind of, very linear in the way that the fibers lay down. It's all kind of tangled up like a woven basket. And so that just makes the area already less mobile. And so when you're talking about, re-engaging into your core and all this stuff, you can't really fully do that until you work the scar tissue. So you're going to have inhibiting there. So like there's the structural issues with having a C-section scar across your abdomen for your core function. And then you also have the emotional stuff. So really, really common pelvic floor conditions are dyspareunia. I always say that wrong, which is painful intercourse. So that's actually like something, again, I didn't push a baby out of my vagina. I should be fine to go back and have sex at 8 weeks. But then they go, okay, first time's uncomfortable. That's normal. But then like the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth time, it's just like too sore. Like they can't even have anything inserted, sometimes even a tampon. And so, and that's because like you're literally tense in that area. You've gone through so much with birthing your baby, and have this trauma that you've stored inside. Your pelvic floor is like not letting go. Another one too that's common is leaking pee, right? So that's urinary incontinence. So a lot of times it's the stress incontinence more than anything. So like you're sneezing and you're peeing. That happened to me at like 18 months postpartum when I was working out with a trainer, because I didn't address my scar tissue. I didn't address, my core function past those like first couple of months when I was seeing my pelvic floor physio. Right. And so I wasn't doing, my core exercises and integrating them with movements to get me started first before I started even lifting weights. And so, there's so much that we need to consider when we're rehabbing our cores after a C-section, because again, it's not just about closing your abdominal, muscles, the gap there, and knowing how to like pick up your pelvic floor. Like there's the functional movement side, there's the scar tissue, that we need to address, which is huge and can take time. But I feel like a lot of people have this like bounce back ideology and that they're supposed to bounce back after. And it's like, okay, if you want to even have that, idea, which is stupid, you can maybe say that after vaginal delivery, but I still don't believe it. But after a C-section, no, because you need to work on your scar tissue, and that takes time. You need to take time for it to close. And then once it's closed, you can't just start digging into the tissue. It's sensitive, it's sore, it's tender. So it can take months, right? But people just want to get back to, CrossFit and running and lifting crazy weights, and they just want to look skinny again or something. And the focus shouldn't be on how fat or thin you are. It should be, can you function? Can you lift your babies? Can you get up out of bed every day without pain? Can you be intimate with your partner? What do you think when you look in the mirror with your clothes off? How do you feel about your birth? all of these things are so important that people just don't consider and right away go to the aesthetics. Oh, I don't like my belly overhang, right? My belly shelf. That's like a really big one. But what's underneath that? How does that belly shelf make you feel? If it's starting to, make you feel like your worth is not as much, like that's an issue. We got to talk about that, right? Because who cares? Only you care. Like no one else is judging you. And if they are, then they're jerks and you shouldn't be associating with them.